The 2015 Pittsburgh Circle Track Club Hall of Fame inductees, with the biography listed in your program. We're going to be going in a slightly different order than the program, but some of the information about these very, very special and accomplished individuals are available in the program as well. And we begin tonight's inductees with Harry Spencer. Harry Glenn Spencer was born September 29, 1929 in Courtenay, Pennsylvania, to parents George and Grace Spencer. His first race was at the Sampson Speedway, modified in 1949 in car number 6. Between the years of 1949 and 1963, Harry raced at South Park, Heidelberg, Clinton, and many other speedways in the tri-state area. In 1963, when Heidelberg threw out the modified division race cars and switched to late models, Harry was then assigned the number 63 to compete in the late models. He raced Dodges throughout the area, including at Motordrome, the Roughdale location, Pennsboro, Morgantown, Langhorne Speedway, Hagerstown, St. Clairsville, and others. In 1971, Harry switched from Dodge to big block Chevys and continued to spend his time on the local scene. In 1976, Harry built 2 cars, and he split his number 63 into a car number 6 and a car number 3. It ended up that he shared the driving chores with his oldest son that season. Both Harry and his son then went on to race at Motordrome in Smithton, the Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania Motor Speedway, through the year 1986, when Harry added a 3rd car to his racing team, reviving the number 63. From 1986 to 1989, Harry, his son, and his grandson, who now drove the traditional number 63, took to the track across many speedways. In 1989, the number 3 car was discontinued from the team, but through 1999, the number 6 and 63 continued to race everywhere in the area. Finally, in 1999, at the age of 65 years old, Harry dedicated his time to managing just one single race car, the number 63, which was driven by his grandson, until he retired in 2008. As a car owner, Harry raced a broader scope of racetracks, again including the Pennsboro Speedway and the newer Dog Hollow, Challenger Speedways, along with Marion Center, Latrobe, Thunder Valley, St. Clairsville, Roaring Knob, Pittsburgh, Eldora, Brown County, Sharon, Florence, Kentucky, East Bay, Florida, Volusia Speedway, and Thundercross, also in Florida. As a driver, Harry went to victory lane at places like South Park, Arden, Quaker State 50, Lernerville, Motordrome, and even at Pennsboro. As an owner, Harry won the points championship at Motordrome Speedway in 1982. At this time, we call up members of the Harry Spencer family to be inducted into the Pittsburgh Circle Track Club Hall of Fame.
And thank everyone that has made this possible. I had the privilege of driving the 63 for 26 years. And I was born into this sport. I started in '66 when I was born. You know, my grandfather was known by a lot of people. Most stories good, some bad. I apologize for the bad ones. But, you know, I've been sitting over there thinking on what would be the best way to explain how he thought of racing. And over the years, I've been to Heidelberg, and now I watch NASCAR. Racing has become driven solely on winning. My grandfather never thought that the winner of any race actually won. He thought that the smartest man with the big money cars behind him was the winner. I wish that that kind of racing would come back. Y'all that are in racing now and have cars, use your brain, not your wallet. And that is the best way that I could convey my grandfather's memory. Thank you.
Bob Bentz Sr., a racer at the South Park Speedway. In 1965, Bob retired from racing as a driver. He went on to build and maintain race cars for Joe Viglione and for Tommy Gale. He and Tom Colella then teamed up together and won many, many races. Bob also worked with Lou Viglione, and together, Bentz and Viglione won over 70 feature events. At the Sharon Speedway on asphalt, they won every race of a single season to earn the Sharon Speedway Championship. He and Viglione had several terrific years at the Motordrome Speedway as well on asphalt. Bob has helped many, many drivers over the years racing both asphalt and dirt tracks. You know, from each of these Hall of Fame inductees tonight, I think we have the opportunity to learn something. And I think it was very well stated to win races with your mind instead of with your wallet. And as I've had the opportunity to watch Bentz racing teams over the years with championship caliber drivers behind the wheel, a lot of race fans in the grandstands just assume that when you have a multi-track champion like Gary Wiltrout behind the wheel, when you have a multi-time dirt and asphalt champion like Tommy Beck behind the wheel, or when you have NASCAR, Busch Series, and ARCA Series driver Richard Mitchell behind the wheel of your cars, that you're automatically going to win races. But the reality is, those caliber drivers are not going to risk their reputation getting into a car that can't be championship caliber. And as I've watched the Bentz teams over the years, I've given some pit tours with young race fans and school students that are aiming to move on in the world and possibly get involved in auto racing. And I always like to stop by the Bentz team trailer, because the lesson that you can learn from those winning race cars and that team is the way to organize and prepare and become a champion at your race shop before you even arrive at the speedway. Teams that are meticulously organized and prepared are the lessons that we can take from Bentz Motorsports. And here to accept this Hall of Fame induction plaque this evening for Bob Bentz Sr., we welcome to the podium Bob Bentz Jr.
Most of all, thanks. My dad would really appreciate it if he could have been here tonight. He lives and breathes racing, and as Mr. Spencer said, everyone thinks we do our race teams on a big, enormous budget. It's nothing more than my dad working 7 days a week from sun up to sundown on the cars. We're fast because my dad makes cars fast. It's years of my brother and myself and all the guys around us. Lou Viglione, just lots of hard work, and a little bit of money always helps, but you can have all the money in the world if you don't have the guys in the shop that can be taught how to go fast, which my father was really good at. Would be mid-pack cars, and my dad's always been a champion. Really wish he could have been here tonight because this was a big deal to him, but just wasn't feeling up to it, and the weather, he was a little bit afraid. I just want to thank everybody. He really would appreciate this award from all of you. Thank you.
Okay, I'm just checking.
Distinguished inductee, the promoter of the Hummingbird Speedway. Our next recipient will be Louis Caltagirone. Louis is one of 14 children raised by his mother in central Pennsylvania. In the mid-1950s, his brothers John, J.D., and Paul began racing stock cars at the old Clearfield Speedway. Louis started out helping his brothers with their cars, and by 1959 he began racing a car of his own. In the early 1960s, Louis turned his vision into opening a racetrack closer to home so that more people locally would be able to have the chance to race and enjoy racing. With the help of his brothers, he began construction in 1963 with plans to open in 1964. The name Hummingbird Speedway came about when the track was being built. As Louis was working on the track, his kids were busy playing in that same area. Louis's daughter, Diane, about 1 year old at the time, came running out of what is now the pit area, screaming about giant bees. It turns out the bees were hummingbirds upon further investigation, and the name was born. It was from there almost 52 years ago that Hummingbird Speedway was born. The Speedway operated from 1964 through 1975. The Speedway was then closed for a total of 25 years with a strip mine in its place. In 1997, Louis and his family began plans to rebuild the Speedway with hardly anything from the old track still remaining. It would have to be completely rebuilt, and in the year 2000, a total of 7 races were run on the newly reopened facility. 2001 was the first full season in the new era of the Hummingbird Speedway. And to this day, it continues to grow under the same ownership and same promoter since back in 1964. Louis is 87 years old. Louis has served on the Borough Council in his hometown of Reynoldsville for 42 years, never accepting a dime for his service. He's locally known as Santa Claus that played the accordion. He returned to racing after that 25-year gap because nothing makes Louis happier than to bring a smile to the faces of others. I know when the track was being built, a good friend of mine by the name of Joe Nowak, he came up to me at the Challenger Raceway and he said, "You're not going to believe this, my favorite track's going to reopen." And I said, "Well, which track is that, Joe?" He said, "The Hummingbird Speedway. I grew up there. It's the greatest place. You got to come and see it someday." I said, "Well, Joe, I will." I said, "Tell me a little about it." So I walked with Joe back to his pickup truck, and Joe's just a regular working guy, a good Western Pennsylvania kind of guy, and he said, "Yeah," he says, "I got to get up to go to work tomorrow, and I'm going extra early, because look at my truck." And there we were in the parking lot of the Challenger Raceway, where Joe was just a photographer, just a fan of the Hummingbird Speedway, and he had already lettered up every inch of his own personal pickup truck to say Hummingbird Speedway. And I said, "Wow, are they sponsored?" "Yeah." I said, "What?" He said, "No, I just went and did that." And he stood there with such a big smile on his face that from that moment right there, I understood how the Hummingbird Speedway and all of our local racetracks have that power to make people smile. And now we're going to bring to the microphone the man who has maintained those smiles of race fans in the area for 64 years, now inducted into the Pittsburgh Circle Track Hall of Fame. Ladies and gentlemen, Louis Caltagirone. We'll sit these right here for your photo session, and congratulations.
Right. Okay. All right, all I've got to say here tonight, thank you very much. It's all true that happened. And without all the family and the close friends, which I wish that would take and stand up. That's my family back there. Harry, our grader operator, our flagman, and my son-in-laws and my daughter. Thank you. Without the family, it would never succeed.
That's right.
All right, and I want to thank Circle Club. The guys come up there, they do well. They treat our children there just like I like to treat my own. And they do the same things that I do with their children at the Speedway. So thank you.
Smile, please. One more, please. Thank you.
Our Hall of Fame inductees, we continue to learn things like always live your life to put smiles on the faces of the people around you. A great lesson from Lou. Which brings us to our next inductee. Back to the cockpit of a race car for our next inductee, modified driver Brian Swartzlander. With in excess of 165 feature victories in just over 35 years of competition, Brian Swartzlander has amazingly notched 15 track championship titles in his long, illustrious career in the modifieds. 7 times a champion of the Lernerville Speedway in Sarver, Pennsylvania, with 90 of those career feature victories occurring in Sarver, Pennsylvania at his home racetrack. 4 times a track champion at the Tri-City Speedway in Franklin, Pennsylvania. 4 times a champion of the #1 Cochran Cavalcade point standings for modifieds. 3-time champion of the BRP Modified Touring Series. 2-time champion at the Sportsman Speedway in Knox, and even a championship at the Sharon Speedway in Hartford, Ohio. Back in 2009, this race car driver was enshrined in the Armstrong County Sports Hall of Fame, alongside NFL football players and people who excel in every possible sport. Going back a long time ago, I believe at the time I was still a teenager, there's a big event that occurs in Indianapolis each year called the Performance Racing Industry Trade Show. And probably a lot of you have heard of or been to the PRI show. And I think it was the second day of the show, as I was walking around with my briefcase, I heard, Mike, can you come here? And I looked and I saw Brian Swartzlander. And Brian Swartzlander was waving me over. He said, there's some kind of problem with my paperwork. I don't know what happened. Can you help me here? And in order to get into the PRI trade show, you have to prove that you are somehow connected to the sport of auto racing. So I went up to the counter and I said, yeah, this guy here is a champion. This guy, he's won features everywhere. Of course this guy belongs in the PRI racing trade show. He's a legend, absolutely. Then Brian shook my hand. He said, thanks, Mike. He probably doesn't even remember this. He said, thanks, Mike. I really appreciate that. And I went on about my way, and I took about 3 steps, and I said, Brian Swartzlander knows who I am. He picked me out of a crowd and called me over by name. As we're learning things from all of these Hall of Fame inductees tonight, the one thing that you can take from the Brian Swartzlander Racing program is the way that he treats people and the professionalism with which his team operates. As a teenager, Brian Swartzlander didn't yet have all those championships and all those feature wins. Brian Swartzlander just presented himself and his race team like the most professional caliber operation going. And that's why I looked up to Brian Swartzlander even before he compiled all those great statistics and all of those championships. So it is with great pleasure that we enshrine our next Hall of Fame inductee for the Pittsburgh Circle Track Club in 2015. Ladies and gentlemen, modified champion Brian Swartzlander.
I do remember that. I probably would still be standing in India if it wasn't for Mike. I normally don't prepare a speech, but I didn't want to forget anybody tonight being inducted in the Hall of Fame. It's really a big honor for me, so forgive me for reading this, but I didn't want to forget anybody, and I want to touch base on everything. So I'd first like to thank the Pittsburgh Circle Track Club for thinking enough of me to nominate me and induct me into their Hall of Fame. It's quite an honor for me. I'd also like to thank Dave Oliveri for nominating me and keeping me informed of all the stuff with the banquet. I was really surprised when Dave called me. I never really expected this, and again, it's quite an honor. Racing has been such a big part of my life. I grew up with it. My grandfather knew a race, my father Mel raced, and here I am, a third-generation driver. There's nothing like watching my dad race. It just was such a great thing. I'll never forget it. When I was 8 or 9 years old, I remember my mom and dad take me to the races, and we'd go to Butler on Friday nights, Wimber on Saturday nights, and Blanket Hill on Sundays. And Blanket Hill was just always neat to me. I really enjoyed going there. You could stand down at the end of the front straightaway and watch the cars coming into turn 1. And it was just so neat, such a good feeling watching my dad enter that corner. He was so smooth. And I really believe that that's when I really decided that I wanted to be a race car driver at that young of age. And it was just so cool going to that track. In 1978, I finally got my first chance in a claimer. And after being around racing all my life, I really figured out when I got in the car and got behind that wheel, I knew what to do. And I could take that car and go right to the front. Oh boy, was I wrong. When I pulled onto the front stretch and looking down the track, I thought to myself, boy, what did I get myself into here? Then I went down the back straightaway with the green flag out, and my vision was blurred. I don't know if it was a bad car or I was just so nervous, but I couldn't hardly see the track. And that took a while to get over that. But it was totally different than what I expected anyway. But I still was even hooked even more. From 1978 to 91, we weren't very successful. We didn't run a lot over those years, but at the end of 91, we finally won our first race at Marion Center Speedway. It only took us 13 years to get our first win. I was hooked even more after that first win. Since then, we've had quite a few more wins, but believe me, I wouldn't have had the success that we've had without the help from a lot of people. I've been blessed to be surrounded by a lot of people throughout my career, and I'm really the lucky one to be sent behind the wheel of the A3 Modified. Although we don't have enough time to thank everyone, I'd really like to thank some of the people that share this award with me tonight. First, I'd like to thank my crew. As you know, the old saying, to finish first, first you must finish. My crew is awesome. They've been with me for a lot of years. My crew chief, Scotty Dort, his wife, Lynn. Scotty's been with me since he was 9 years old. He's really learned the trade. My son, BJ, and his wife, Amy. BJ is really a driving force behind our team. If it was up to BJ, we'd be racing 6 nights a week. Dad's too old for that, BJ. Scott and Lisa Covert. My nephew, Justin Swartzlander. And the McCutcheons, Nate and Chad, and also Jason. These guys are every Friday night. I just want to say, Scotty and BJ, you know, they've dedicated so much of their time over the years. I can't thank these guys enough. They've been awesome. Also like to thank my brothers, Jeff and Keith, and their wives, Holly and Ann. They've been there for me and supported me 100%. Keith was actually my crew chief for many years until he started driving himself. We had a lot of good runs together, Keith, and I really thank you for that. Appreciate it, buddy. My brother Jeff's always been the engineer of the team. We house our car at his shop, and Jeff designs and manufactures a lot of the parts for a race car. And a lot of parts are on there now are built at Precise Tool and Die, so he does a great job. In 1993, McCutcheon Enterprises came aboard to the 83 team. What a ride we've had. Together we've had a lot of wins and a lot of championships. We've become really good friends, and I consider them a part of the family. I want to thank Kelvin and Julie McCutcheon for all their help and support. We've had a lot of fun on our journey. We've gone to New York, Michigan, Charlotte, and it's been a lot of fun. We're looking forward to this year. We're going to take a trip to Florida and try to run with those guys. So we're looking to have a good time down there in February. Kelvin, don't you think it was pretty neat? You know, when we first started in '93, I'd have never thought, you know, back then our kids were 8, 9, 10 years old. And running around the trailer in the pits, would you ever thought that here we are, all these years later, and our kids' are in the pits now running around trailers. You come to the track on Friday night, you'll see JR and Rhiannon at the races, and it's really a neat thing, you know. I especially want to thank my kids, too. I've been really blessed to have these 2 kids. My daughter Tammy and her husband Kevin, BJ and Amy, they're great kids, and I couldn't be more proud of them. I've got to thank my #1 fan, my granddaughter Rhiannon. She's here tonight on her first banquet. And I hope you're not too bored, Rhiannon. Grandpa's almost done, so. We also have a new addition to the race team this year. BJ and Amy have blessed us with my granddaughter, Katie. She was just born in October, and I was down at her house the other night, and she had her first race shirt on. And it was pretty neat. It said, "My grandfather will blow your grandfather's doors off." So it won't be long, but you'll see Katie in the pit scraping off mud, just like Amy and Lisa. They're both my sweethearts, so I love them to death. And last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife, Marianne. She's the one who really deserves this award for putting up with me. She's been there through all the ups and downs that comes with racing. I want to thank her and my kids for all the sacrifices they've made. They've done this so that I can do what I love to do. It's really neat on Friday nights. You know, Marianne, she's really not a big race fan. She likes watching me race, and you know, she's been stuck with it for all these years. But she always wants to know what feature event we are the night of Lernerville, so she can get there right at heat race time. She don't want to get there at 7:30, so she'll get there and I'll be lined up and she'll wave at me and come in the pits or in the stands, and then as soon as my race is over, she's gone. But we really have a good time after the races, our whole family. We call it happy hour, but some nights it's not so happy hour. But she's always home waiting for me when I get there, and we usually have a couple of drinks and some snacks and just have a good time with the family. And to me, that's what racing's all about, family sport. And both these tables here have been such great help to me. I can't thank them enough.
Amen.
So thanks to the Pittsburgh Circle Track for having me here tonight, and I'm really looking forward to seeing all you at the races. Thank you very much.
Good.
Well, as Brian mentioned family, it was a member of the Swartzlander family that provided the photo for that Circle Track Club plaque that Brian is holding. And wouldn't you happen to know that that plaque happens to be from Circle Track Club night at the Lernerville Speedway? So somebody was very thoughtful in providing that for the plaque. Club Hall of Fame this evening. A driver from Level Green, Pennsylvania. A driver who began his racing career by lying about his age so that he would be old enough to compete in the figure eight division at the Heidelberg Raceway. And of course I'm speaking of NASCAR competitor Norm Benning Jr. Norm began competing in the figure eights at Heidelberg, and after lying about his age, he went on to win a championship in the figure eights at Heidelberg Raceway. From there, Norm took to the dirt tracks of the region. In fact, at one point, as a tire testing driver for Goodyear Tires, he set a fast time at the Pennsboro Speedway, winning races all throughout the region, including at the Volusia Speedway in Florida. At one point in his dirt track racing career, Norm had won 1/3 of the races that he had entered in dirt track late model racing. In fact, when the Clearfield Speedway paved back in 1987, Norm won the first race on asphalt, driving a dirt car against the pavement late models. As his career moved on, asphalt is where he climbed to notoriety. After a brief stint in the NASCAR Modifieds and racing in the NASCAR Winston Cup Series, Norm moved to the ARCA Supercar Series. For several consecutive seasons running the full tour with the nation's best on tracks like Daytona and Talladega, Norm notched 32 top 10 finishes in his career with the ARCA Supercar Series, and 7 times he finished in the top 10 of the championship point standings for the ARCA Touring Series, including finishing 5th in their championship chase back in 2001. After the ARCA Series, Norm moved on to the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, where he rose to even greater notoriety because on one particular evening at the famed Eldora Speedway, with viewers on 3 continents watching a brand new streaming live video from the Eldora Speedway, Norm Benning became a celebrity. Since that opportunity, Fox Sports has produced a mini documentary on his career and on that particular night, where at the Eldora Speedway, Tony Stewart was the first person to be at the side of Norm's truck after the B-Main to congratulate him. And Tony Stewart said, "Norm, you may not know it, but you just made this race into what it is at the first running of the Mud Summer Classic at Eldora Speedway." It turns out that there's sort of a discrepancy in the way race fans view that night at the Eldora Speedway. It was a remarkable night in the history of the NASCAR Truck Series because more viewers worldwide watched that broadcast than any other broadcast on 3 continents. It was a remarkable night for the Eldora Speedway as well as the Truck Series. And there's people that say it was a remarkable night for Norm Benning. And that's where I disagree. It was remarkable for Eldora, it was remarkable for the Truck Series, but over the years, I've watched Norm Benning maybe 100 times on different size tracks in different types of race cars, use the equipment that he had available, paired up with tenacity, grit, effort, and all of his racing knowledge to get the job done. So when people say that was a remarkable night for Norm Benning, I tend to disagree. Even though NASCAR put his helmet from that night into their Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina, that wasn't a remarkable night for Norm. That was just Norm being Norm, like he's been throughout his entire career. The only difference was 1.4 million people on 3 continents had a chance to watch him do it. For 12 hours, the NASCAR executives still brag about this, for 12 hours after that Eldora race, Norm Benning were the most typed words on the internet worldwide. So the driver coming to the podium next was the #1 internet trend for half a day following that Mud Summer Classic at the Eldora Speedway. At this time, we enshrine, along with his father, into the Pittsburgh Circle Track Club Hall of Fame, Norm Benning Jr.
Did I really do all that? I really appreciate the Circle Track Committee inducting me, and also my compliments to the chef. This is the best food I ever had at Anchor. But once again, the drivers come up here all the time and get a chance to talk on the mic, but the people behind them are the reason we accomplished what they did. And there's 4 people back there I want to mention. My brother-in-law's been with me forever. He was there when I won the championships and the times when we broke down on the highway and everything else goes along with it. And right next to him is my niece, who instructed me to tell everybody how much I love her. So I'm doing it. And Linda, my girlfriend back there, I can't tell you the stuff she's done to keep this thing together. You know, she does all the paperwork, and she's actually a very good chassis person. She did tires for me for years at all these tracks. And again, the people behind the drivers should be up here, because they're the people that make it all happen. And there's a lot of you out there, I'm sure. I congratulate the drivers that are getting these trophies and so forth and so on, but the people behind them are the ones that really make it happen. And that's all I want to say. I want to say hi to Chris back there. He was on my crew at Eldora. I think as a matter of fact, I think he did the rear gear for me. Is that right? Yeah. So he was there to see all that. And I ran that race, and you know, I did what, as I always do. I was just there to make sure I made it. And I came into the garage area there, and every crew guy from every team was there except the guy I beat. And Tony Stewart, he jumped through that window. I thought he was going to kiss me. He came right through the window of that truck. He said, "You just made this show a success." And he bought that truck. It's sitting up at the Hall of Fame up there at Eldora. He bought it off me. I actually put it on eBay because I had so many people that wanted to buy it. So I put it on eBay. And Roger Slack, his general manager, called me up and said, "You can't sell that. That's a piece of history." So it's up there. It's the ugliest thing in the museum. But it's there. And I'm really proud of it. And Winston Kelly from NASCAR Hall of Fame down there, he called me up and said, "We have to have something in this museum." So they've got my helmet and gloves, and I'm really proud of that. So I thank you all for coming out in this weather. And I think Mike has some questions for me. Can't wait for that.
Well, I kind of knew you were going to forget a couple of these owners, but as you get your photo taken, I just want to remind the fans here about some of the car owners like Reggie Vasco and the Martino Racing Team, the Martinelli team with which you won their first race. And before you go to that photo session, Norm, I have one important question for you here at the microphone. No statistics, no accomplishments. Let's say Norm Benning's a blank resume as he stands here in front of this podium. I have one question for you. Who is the better race car driver, Norm Benning Jr. or Norm Benning Sr.?
You know, that was the first time I was asked that, and I didn't give him an answer either. My dad was great. He either won or he wrecked. There was nothing to say. And a lot of people in this room know that, but he won a lot of races with Art Munch. You know, that one year at Heidelberg, he won every big race with Art Munch. The one race he ran, and the race was over, they said the push rod was sticking out of the valve cover, but he still won the race. So he, you know, I'll tell you a story. You got some time here. He was invited by Bill France Sr. to come to Florida to race, because he won a NASCAR race in Toledo or somewhere. But Bill France came over and says, I will pay for you to come down south and race with us. And he didn't do it. And as a result, I didn't get a chance to be one of those spoiled kids. I had to work for everything I got. But I still complain about that to him. He's down in Florida chasing golf balls right now, but I wish he was here. And as Mike said, Reggie Vasco put me on a map locally. You know, he built a car, we built a car, and went out to Pennsylvania Motor Speedway and won the first night. And went on to win a third of the races that year. And went down to Pennsboro, and the guy that won the Stars Championship, can't think of his name now, but him and Kelly Arbor over there with Goodyear tires, and neither one of them qualified for the race. And I went out, 128th car to go out and put her on the pole. So Goodyear come over, because they went over and complained the tires were junk, and they did that a little too soon. So I ended up with a Goodyear sponsorship for a full season over that deal at Pennsboro. But I don't know where Reggie is, but I wish he was here tonight. But again, thank you very much.
So if you take a little bit from every one of these Hall of Fame inductees tonight, I think you'd wind up with a pretty stand-up guy. I think we learned a little bit about effort and tenacity. We learned a little bit about family and professionalism in racing. We learned a little bit about attention to detail and great preparation for this sport. We learned about working for the love of it, putting a smile on people's faces, and we learned that you can do more with your mind than your wallet. Those are some great lessons to learn. How about one big round of applause for all of tonight's Hall of Fame inductees in the Pittsburgh Circle Track Club.
I'll say one more thing. At Daytona last February, I was on the pole for a while. It was incredible. Everybody knows the money you're up against down there. Ended up 4th fastest, finished 14th in the race. And I'll be there February 19th trying to win that thing, so tune in.
Best of luck to you. Best of luck, Norm.